India end the day in apparent complete control, closing on 196 for 2 with a lead of 322 runs after bowling England out for 319 earlier in the day. We'll discuss another collapse by England, whether Joe Root's form and shot selection is a concern, and whether or when India should declare on day 4. And we'll get reaction from Ben Duckett from the England camp after his brilliant innings of 153 came to an end in the morning session. So plenty to come over the next 30 minutes or so. You're listening to Following On. Well, Bumble, let's start with you. I've given the match situation there. It's been perhaps the most one-sided day in the Test series so far. India in complete control, and the obvious question is there a way back for England?
Where they're going to take wickets. The way that the bowlers have looked tired in that last session, Mark Wood in particular, is banging the ball into the middle of the pitch, and just 6 overs from Jimmy Anderson, 2 young spinners. The calmness, the way that India have played, has got them into a fabulous position. But you look at the start of the day, with the news that Ashwin is away, he's not going to take any further part in the game. England were 200 plus for 2, and you just think they're going to play fabulously here. And they were just blown away. Losing 5 for 20 was an alarm right at the end. But I thought that India responded splendidly. When your best bowler's not there, your seniors have to step up, and the captains and the management. And I thought they did that. Siraj, as the opening bowler, took 4 wickets. Bumrah was a handful. They used the Yorker effectively, and they bowled full and straight at England. And then the wrist spinner came in and did a wonderful job. England wanted to get after him, Yadav, and they couldn't.
Abhishek, there'll be much consternation amongst England supporters. I mentioned Joe Root's dismissal, which triggered a very disappointing day with the bat for England. But I'll get Bumble's reaction to that in just a moment. First of all, from an Indian perspective, we have to mention Yashasvi Jaiswal, who unfortunately had to retire hurt with what looked like a back spasm or a pulled muscle in his back, having made his 2nd century of the series. He was brilliant, 104. And what was interesting about his approach, and it was the same during his double 100 as well, 10 days ago, is that he went through long periods of traditional Test batting when he absorbed long periods of pressure, and then suddenly he would have these spontaneous bursts of scoring when he took 16 off and over, got 6-4-4 against Jimmy Anderson, and then he goes back into a more cautious approach, but he was brilliant.
He was absolutely outstanding. And yeah, it was that period where India scored 50 runs of 4 overs at around 9.5 and over, and suddenly there was a massive shift in momentum, and also that caused a lot of doubts in the England bowlers. When you attack in that fashion against a bowling attack, suddenly the lens starts changing, the bowlers don't know what to do, how to react to that, and that's exactly what we saw. And it was a phenomenal 100 again after getting a double 100 earlier in the series. He's a special player, Yashasvi Jaiswal.
Now then, Bumble, an old friend and colleague of yours, and a man who's been writing on and following cricket and playing it actually for the best part of half a century, Shield Berry, who's now part-time with the Telegraph, wrote a piece a little earlier today in which he described Joe Root's attempt to reverse scoop Jasprit Bumrah as the stupidest shot in English cricket history. Obviously he was a little bit emotional.
Well, he would get a reaction as soon as he played the shot. We said, well, that'll be the talking point for the whole day. Starting his innings, and he got to 18 playing very well. He's got 30 Test match centuries. We're not talking about a mug here. And so, as he missed an opportunity, he's made a mistake, no doubt about that. If he'd have gone for 4 or 6, as it has done previously, you'd say, ho, 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 outrageous shot, well done, well played, innovative, doing something different. In that match situation, and you talk about Shield Berry, come back to Michael Vaughan, who's always vocal on social media, he just doesn't like it at all. He thinks it's irresponsible. And so I'd be quite relaxed if I was McCullum, because that's what he wants from him. Now, he's made a mistake, and I know he's the best player that's made one mistake, and that is it. The irony about batting, you get one chance. A bowler can bowl all day, he's got so many chances. You make a mistake as a batter, that's what he's just done, made a mistake, and he's gone.
Now then, previous to today's dismissal, Joe Root had scored 74 runs playing the reverse scoop for once out. He played it to the fourth ball of the day's play in a test match against New Zealand in Mount Maunganui against Neil Wagner. The fourth ball of the day, and it went for 6 over fine leg. And I didn't hear too many people at that time saying that's ridiculous from Joe Root, he should never be playing that shot. So again, do you want the new, innovative, creative, fantastically entertaining style, or don't you? And you can't have both. You know, it's one way or the other.
Yeah, I think as a fan, as everyone who's not involved out there with the team management, you got to accept what they're doing at the moment. There's a brand of cricket they are playing. They're trying to change the way they play cricket. Not just them. They're trying to change the way Test cricket has ever been played. And when it comes off, it looks brilliant, and there will be times when it doesn't come off. So you got to accept both. You cannot have one and you say every time they get out trying to do something different, saying, "Oh, you shouldn't have played that shot," because he's got enough runs playing that shot.
If they had a different coach and a different setup, so all these players have bought into what they're doing. Just say if it was Duncan Fletcher. No, he wouldn't have been happy with that, because that's not the style. That would not be the style of play. But within this team and this environment, that is what's expected of them. And so you can talk about the best player, Joe Root. Is it irresponsible, or is he doing what is expected from him, his team and his management?
There's also a traditional cricket logic that says that once Joe Root was out, the first wicket of the day, Johnny Bairstow was then trapped LBW by Kuldeep Yadav for naught, fourth ball, and suddenly England had lost 2 wickets in 5 balls. And the traditional logic says that, oh, well, we see that's what happens when you play a shot like that. It costs 2 wickets. Well, that's nonsense, isn't it? I mean, Joe Root attempting to reverse scoop Jasprit Bumrah had nothing to do with Johnny Bairstow getting out LBW.
No, and he made a mistake. He played back. He would look at it now, and as they always do, they go back and look on their own screens, and he would be saying, and somebody might gently say, you know, you'd be better going forward, get forward to it, which you want to do. He decided to go back. It spins back really sharply, keeps low. French cricket that he's playing, as we always played in the schoolyard. And he reviewed it, which, you know, he'd absolutely no chance on that review. It's hitting middle, halfway up.
Okay, just a quick look at the other wickets then. Ben Stokes was out looking to force the pace for 41. He batted beautifully once again, but you know that's a entirely legitimate shot. He's miscued one to long off. Ben Foakes as well chipped one to mid on. But at that stage, it was very good bowling from Mohammad Shiraz, who's stuck to his game plan, bowled with the same energy and pace and discipline, and finished up with 4 wickets, and deservedly.
I think that's what he does. He brings in a lot of energy, Mohammad Shiraz, and sometimes the execution is there, sometimes it's not. But today it was one of those days where he executed his plan perfectly. And we discussed it earlier. It's about the length. A lot of times you can have plan to bowl very straight wicket to wicket, but you can vary your length where the batsman gets an opportunity to score runs. But today his length was so good that all the batters struggled to get any runs, and that put a lot of pressure. When you're not scoring runs against a particular bowler, you get under a lot of pressure, and that's exactly what he was able to achieve.
Bumble, let's talk about Ben Duckett. Yesterday we couldn't give him enough praise, and we were effusive in our appreciation for the entertainment and the inspiration that he provided for England and for all England supporters. And today he was dismissed by the worst ball bowled in the series so far.
Yeah, and there was one later from Tom Hartley, which is vying for that, the worst ball. And it was that bad, he nearly ruptured himself hitting it, Ben Duckett, and spooned it up to extra cover, a cover very, very tamely, very, very gently. And it just shows you the value of wrist spin. It's such an interest to the game, and they will bowl some absolute jaffers, but they'll bowl some rubbish as well. That was utter rubbish, which he just about reached and clothed it to extra cover on 153.
Does it make sense to say that you don't practice against rubbish? And when you're in that positive a state of mind as Ben Duckett is, and he's hitting good balls, he's hitting wicket-taking balls for 4 through the offside, and he's so focused and in tune on good balls that when you get something like that, you just so unexpected. And as Bumble says, he's just clothed it, just chipped it straight to cover.
Yeah, it happens a lot. It happens a lot in club cricket as well. When somebody just bowls a lot of rubbish and bowls one good ball and you get out to it, it's a bit like that here when the bowlers are bowling Majority of them have been very good balls, and suddenly you get an absolute pie or a rubbish delivery, but you're in no position to play that ball and you end up getting out. And Patidar has done it twice in this match.
Now then, let's turn our attention, before we hear from Ben Duckett, to the Indian innings. Now they've a lead of 126 runs, which is the smallest of the three leads. They led by 190 on the first innings in Hyderabad and lost the Test match. They led by 143 in Visakhapatnam and won that one. Here their lead was just 126. Do you think England were a little bit lacking in inspiration? Do you think that they felt that lead was more commanding than the actual number, 126? Rohit Sharma was trapped LBW on review by Joe Root, and then Rajat Patidar, as Bumble says, has hit a terrible ball from Tom Hartley to cover, not quite as poorly as Ben Duckett's dismissal, but not far behind. But England were definitely lacking inspiration in that final session.
Yeah, I think they were. And 126-run lead on this Rajkot pitch it's a substantial lead, but it's not a match-winning lead. England was still in the game if they could get some early wickets. But you got to give a lot of credit. After Rohit Sharma departed, the way Shubman Gill and Yashasvi Jaiswal batted, both youngsters, they're both in their early 20s, to show that much maturity and have such a calm head, is something extraordinary.
Okay, it was an extraordinary innings from Ben Duckett, and he was having a chat to Graham Swan after the day's play.
Ben, thanks for your time. A disappointing day overall for England, but brilliant 150 for yourself.
You've got to give credit to the way they played this evening. I thought we batted superbly last night, and actually they gave us nothing this morning and bowled really well. And we were attacking like we were yesterday. It just didn't pay off.
You said before this tour started that you were going to use the sweep and reverse sweep like a defensive stroke, and you did that yesterday. How much fun was that when it was all working so beautifully? Yeah,
incredibly fun. And there's a lot more theory behind it than people probably think. I think people probably thought that sounded quite reckless, but I've kind of learned from playing in Pakistan that I've got so many different options. And they were quite attacking sweeps yesterday, but I was really gutted a couple of games ago when I got out to caught silly points. So my game is, if they want to attack and have people around the bat, I'll try and get rid of them, and then I can rotate a lot easier.
Yeah, it's certainly the aggressive approach to take. Like many of the England batsmen, Joe Root's dismissal will undoubtedly divide opinion, but I'm assuming that you're pretty happy with the way he plays.
Yeah, Root's just, he's a freak and he does things that a lot of us can't do. That's, in my eyes, the same as playing a drive and nicking off the second slip. Rooty plays that shot so well, and I'm sure those people weren't saying that when he was hitting Cummins for 6 in the summer.
Here. This game is not out of reach of England, surely?
No, 100% not. I think even sending in a night watchman when you're 330 ahead at the end shows that they're slightly wary of us. We're going to continue the way that we play, and if we get 2 or 3 blokes in on that pitch scoring quickly, you never know what can happen.
Well, thanks for joining us, and again, very well played.
Thank you. Cheers.
Ben Duckett speaking to Graham Swan after the day's play, after his brilliant 153. And there were a couple of moments that caused you to smile, Gareth Batty, listening to him. What were they?
I think the question nearer the end, when Swanee said, "Is this game out of reach?" his reply of absolutely not, in that sort of very confident fashion. Look, I admire the sort of psyche behind it, but I think being 320 behind right now with 8 wickets to go is a pretty long way behind the game. Had it take 100 runs off, I'd be like, yeah, fine, no problem. But I think that's a substantial position to be in from India, and I think the pitch is only getting worse. We're seeing more balls today disrupt the surface of the wicket. So tomorrow I expect it to get worse, and I expect India to get themselves in an incredibly dominant position, and probably the old school way of playing cricket, and say, well, there is almost no chance that you can get the runs that we have, and then we're going to go about our business of trying to bowl you out.
Tell you what made me smile, Bumble, is when Ben Duckett said that Joe Root was a freak and that he could do things that the rest of them couldn't do. And there's hundreds of thousands of England supporters going, no, he isn't. Joe Root isn't a freak. That's the point.
I'm killing myself here, and there's a famous rugby league commentator who very famously said, I can't speak. Well, I'm just like that, listening to that interview. The last bit that he said, yeah, they're wary of us. They're only 330 ahead. They're only 330 ahead with 2 days to go and so many wickets left, and this pitch is going to deteriorate. And so I admire the optimism, but get real.
So, getting real then, Bats, do you foresee a declaration from India? Do you think they will bat until, I don't know, tea, just before tea, if they possibly can? It's not about runs, is it? Probably. If they're not bowled out, it'll be about how many overs they want to bowl England out without Ravichandran Ashwin in the attack.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I think in that position that they find themselves in, I think they will want runs that they will just feel like it is almost, if not impossible, to get. Because then there becomes only one winner in the game. It's more of an old psyche of playing the game. But I feel like India have gone through the gears and gone through the process of earning the right to put themselves in this game into a situation where realistically all the odds would say it is practically impossible, knowing full well this England team do the things that are close to the impossible. But I think they'll want plus 400, probably 450. They'll want to get it in a reasonable speed, but if they're bowling by tea time, I think they will feel like 4 sessions should be enough to bowl England out in a deteriorating surface.
Without R. Ashwin, Jadeja seemed, I don't know whether he was carrying an injury or I mean, he bowled 1 over before lunch in the morning.
Yeah, you'd have expected him to bowl much more than he did. But I think they've got the bowlers on a pitch like this, so they will see 1 each in the position that they're in now. This is a massive opportunity for us, Rohit Sharma, to win this game. How do we win this game? By scoring runs that puts England out of the game. Watch this pitch deteriorate. Get on the pitch. We've talked about that forever for 3 days. Get onto the pitch. Scuff it up if you can. And I'm sure that will happen, but it'll naturally wear and tear. And so it's an examination of England then in their second innings. How do they play? They've told us all along we're going to play the same way. McCullum said we'll chase or try to chase 600. Well, he's got every chance.
I think that's the thing. This will test England for the first time, I believe, if everything goes as today has shown it could do. England have to be true to their word to go, we don't shut up shop here, we keep going, and that's going to be one brave situation to find yourself in.
It's going to be superb to watch because we know what they've told us. That's the way we play. Wherever we are, that's the way that we're going about it. What if it's 600? Yeah, we'll chase that as well. And so you'll look at this pitch on day 4 and day 5. It isn't going to get any better. I know Ashwin's not there, but the response today from that attack, I think, has been fantastic. You know, for the captain and the management and the coaches to say, right, boys, we're 1 down, now let's get to work. Let's make it as uncomfortable as possible for this opposition. They've done it perfectly.
Bats, can I get your opinion on Joe Root and the modern player in general and the shots that they play? And I did make the point that Joe Root had scored 74 runs playing the reverse scoop for once out in his Test career in the last 2 years. But there is a very different way of looking at shots. We heard Ben Duckett there saying that, you know, there's more science to the theory behind playing the sweep and the reverse sweep as being as safe as his forward defensive shot. And there are people saying, you know, a lot of people saying that Joe Root shouldn't be suckered into playing Bazball style, but that's what he wants to do, and he's been very successful at doing it. And you know, this hankering for an old style safety first approach is just not going to happen.
I think he's taking the lead from his very good friend Ben Stokes, who wants this team to play in a certain manner. Joe Root is a senior player within this team. He's a leader within this team, and if the management is saying, come on, be brave, come out there, exactly how you started the question, he's got 74 runs for the 1 dismissal. He possibly wouldn't see it at this point as big a risk as it looks today from the outcome. Does he need to do it? If it was a conversation between me and Bumble and he's saying, would you advocate that he plays it? I'd say, Joe Root's a wonderful player. I don't think he needs to. But that's only my opinion. I'm looking at the bigger picture for Joe Root helping this team develop as they want to do, and he's taking a lead as a senior player saying we can do extravagant things.
The compromise to all this is that it's the situation that they're in. If he were 110 on the board himself and played it and got out, oh, what a great innings. Nobody, but it's the situation that the team's in and he's in. He's made a mistake, but it's what they've bought into. And I think, from what I'm hearing, and if you don't play that way, don't apply for the job. You ain't getting in the team. They've told everybody in county cricket, that's what we're looking for. If you can't play that way, you ain't playing.
And I think to solidify that position, you need your best batter, who is Joe Root, to be buying into it, and he's doing.
Right, so carry on. Is there, within that 11, or you talk about 7 batters probably, is there a place for the steady Eddie? Is there that sort of place? Now, moving forward, people will say, well, he is your steady Eddie. I'm not sure he is. I think that when he plays Joe Root, he scores quite naturally. Doesn't have to do anything else. He's one of these players when he's just got in and look at the board, oh, he's 40. Where's he got them? So he's played an extravagant shot. He's made a mistake. Smell the coffee, leave him alone.
Career strike rate of about 60 in Test cricket, I believe, Joe Root. That's not a blocker.
In Hyderabad, and when England conceded a deficit of 190, I was not alone in thinking there was no way back, only because no team in Test history playing in India had ever come back from that. The largest deficit that had been overcome by a touring team in India was 30-odd, not 190. So it had never been done before. Ollie Pope played an innings of a lifetime, an innings for the ages. And yet again, I find myself thinking there's no way back from this. They're 322 behind with 8 wickets in hand, and a centurion, Yashasvi Jaiswal's 104 not out. He might come back if he gets his back sorted out. And yet that won't be the thinking in the England change room this evening.
I don't think it will, but there's some miles in the legs for the fast bowlers and for the spinners. Fatigue is something that England maybe haven't had as much to deal with as they're seeing in this game, with the humidity, the heat that they've had to put up, with the volume of overs that each bowler would have bowled now going into day 4. So we've said it at the start of every session. Tomorrow morning, the next session is incredibly important. If India do what they did in this last session today, tomorrow morning, I hate to say it, but I don't see a way back for England.
Can eventually, when England do bat, they will need somebody to score a double 100 and somebody to score 100. Is that on this pitch? I can't see it.